This is a very foundational prevention web conference. So I am going to go into something that if you've been doing prevention work for a long time, this likely is not new for you. But for those of you who haven't heard this, I think it's a good opportunity. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to tell you about it. And what I'm going to talk to you about is this story that we often use when we're thinking about lots of public health issues. Of course, I've always heard it described when we're talking about violence prevention, but it's the moving upstream story. Sometimes it's called different things, and everyone tells it a little bit differently, which I think is so wonderful. But I will tell you how I tell it. And so here it goes. And it's called the moving upstream story because this kind of thinking is often referred to as upstream thinking. Okay, so one day a person was fishing by the river and suddenly they see someone, in the water, waving their arms, calling for help. This person is just being swept downstream. And so the fisher jumps into the river to save the drowning person. And they're successful. They get them safely back to the riverbank and the person's okay, right? They need to rest. They need to, recover from that really scary experience, but they're going to be okay. But not even a minute later, here comes another person floating down the river, also drowning, also calling out for help. And so the fisher saves this person too. But before they even have a chance to sit down and catch their breath, here comes a third person, and then three more people, and so on and so on. And the fisher is just completely exhausted. They are out of breath. They cannot possibly go on like this. There's just too much. And so they decide to run upstream. And the reason they do this is because they want to see what's happening up there that's causing all of these people to fall in the river. And when the fisher finally gets upstream, they notice there's a lot of problems, okay? It's like a disaster. There, for one, is an unsafe bridge that is just completely falling apart. So people are like falling through the cracks. Even looking stable parts of the bridge are breaking when people try to cross it. There are people who are actually pushing others into the river. So it's not just one thing. There's many, many issues that are causing people to go into the river. And so the fisher thinks to themselves, that the only way to save people from drowning in the river is to address these issues. They have to prevent people from falling in the river in the first place. All right, so when we talk about preventing violence, there are lots and lots of different forms. We have many folks on this call who are probably doing a lot of advocacy, right? You are meeting survivors, you are providing resources and options, crisis intervention. So, so important. You're connecting survivors to resources. We have folks on this call that are probably doing outreach and awareness, right? Going out into the community, letting people know about the problem of sexual and domestic violence, letting people know what is available to them. We probably have folks in here who are doing risk reduction. So maybe doing self-defense classes, maybe trying to empower bystanders, really important work. And then we have folks in here who are doing primary prevention, who are trying to change the conditions that allow violence to exist. So changing norms, changing policy, looking at the different environments that we all move throughout our lives. If we look back to the river story, we can think about these different forms of prevention like this. Advocacy was the fisher willing to go out into the water, right? That person they're gonna be a first responder. They're gonna save the person. We can think of outreach and awareness as maybe we decide to post signs, letting people know, hey, watch out, there's a broken bridge, there's some unsafe conditions happening. We can think of risk reduction as teaching people how to swim or providing them with like life vests or floaties. And we can think of primary prevention as fixing the bridge. And something that is important for me is that there is no one strategy or form of prevention on the screen that will end violence on its own. We really need all of these forms, especially because most of us have either already experienced some form of violence or someone that we love and care about has been impacted by violence. So we need all of these forms. But a lot of times, what happens is the money, the attention goes to the advocacy, the outreach and awareness, and the risk reduction. But primary prevention often gets kind of left out, not invested in, not seen as the most important. But from our phishing story or from our upstream story, we know that that's actually what's going to have long-term impact.